conquer and we're going to take some. Is that understood? Yes, sir. That's what we're going to do, sweethearts. We are going to go and get some. All right, people, on the ready line. Are you me? Yeah! Are you me? Yeah! What are you? What are you?
The support systems of family and community are an integral part of the holidays for those that are caring for loved ones with special needs. Through the love and diligence of his family, Jeremiah Feliciano was able to live a healthy and productive life despite his rare genetic disease. Read his story and much more in EP's annual Family and Community issue. To read more, sign up for free today at www.epmagazine.com.
Monotony. It comes in all shapes and sizes. Dull, tedious, just plain boring. But what is this? A contender, perhaps? Something unboring by the looks of it. Jabs right at dull, an uppercut to tedium, something that keeps you on your toes, keeps your head on a swivel, a knockout punch to your old, boring workouts. Welcome to Fight Camp.
Oscar Mike Radio is a proud podcast partner of Reach Across America Radio, heard every Thursday at 11 a.m. and Sunday at 8 a.m. Eastern. They're also big supporters of the nonprofit I Got Your Six, 2 Lives at Once. And with every wreath you sponsor through Oscar Mike Radio, $5 goes back to this great organization dedicated to making a difference in the lives of veterans, law enforcement, firefighters, and first responders battling PTSD. 2 Lives at Once pairs these brave men and women together with dogs rescued from kill shelters. In this way, 2 lives are saved at the same time by saving each other. Donate now. Go to reachacrossamerica.org/Oscar Mike Radio to help. That's reachacrossamerica.org/Oscar Mike Radio.
I remember a time when I was in a not so good place, and these games and these activities and being able to come and have the camaraderie that we have here, it makes me feel like I'm not alone. There are people here that have been through what I've been through. It makes me feel like I don't know, I'm part of something great.
Just let yourself go. Give it a try.
Hello and welcome again to Oscar Mike Radio. My name is Travis, Marine Corps veteran and your host. Oscar Mike Radio is part of the Hubazoo Network. You can find out more on Hubazoo.com. I want to thank my sponsors, Joyce Asack of Asack Real Estate, Army National Guard veteran Mark Holmes of Reapers Detailing and Power Washing, and my supporters, Cason Shaving Company and Exceptional Parent Magazine. 2025 is off to a hot start already, and the theme for this year is more is more, and there's nothing like talking to more Marines. Right? I mean, there's nothing better than talking to Marines. And so I'm pleased to be joined by, fellow Marine Corps veteran, podcaster, and all-around awesome dude, Bryan Roof, host of the Every Day's a Saturday podcast. Bryan, welcome to Oscar Mike Radio.
Thank you, brother. And I couldn't agree with you more. more Marine talk is better.
Well, let me ask you
Who
something,
would have
because
thunk it?
we're Marines, right? I mean, I've had an Air Force guy. Well, more is never more. It's not really a good way to be. And I'm like, is more fuel? Is less fuel ever more? Is less bombs ever more? Are less rounds ever more? Is less chow ever more? I can't think of an equation where that's ever true, Brian. What about you?
Yeah, 100%. We want more. Give
All
us
the,
more.
all the time.
You give us rounds, we'll use every bit of them.
More to the everywhere all the
We'll
time.
find some use.
Absolutely. So we met through, these groups where we hang with David Willis Jr. on, his Tip of the Spear thing he's got going on, a very cool collection of veteran, hosts of their shows or nonprofits or what have you. And it's people ask me, is it cooler now that there's more veterans? I said, yes, it's cooler. I said, you could have, 100 different veteran content creator hosts, or storytellers, whatever you want to call them, talk to the same person and get 100 different perspectives. So why can't we all play in this big sandbox? There's plenty of room for everybody. There's thousands of stories that go unrecorded. I love the aspect, Brian, where hopefully what happened with the World War I veterans doesn't happen anymore, where entire swaths of history are just gone. So we hung out. It was cool, but you're also a Marine. So we got to start with the beginning, man. What was your Marine Corps experience like, Devil Dog?
Well, man, it was, I would call it the unexpected. I joined in the year 2000, right? And I really didn't know what I was getting myself into when I decided to join the Marine Corps, other than watching Full Metal Jacket, and I figured, hey, all right, that's what I got it to go to. I can do this. Just don't want to be the guy getting, the soap party, So I just don't be that guy, so to
Right.
speak. So, but anyhow, man, I never really saw myself, joining the military. I actually was a big football player, loved football. I really had visions of kind of going into college and playing football. But the problem is I didn't really have a focus in school, man. I hated school. I and that was part of going to college. You had to go to class. I'm like, well, can I just play football? I mean, is there just that, And of course there's not. So one day, man, I really got a hair up my butt, and I was kind of going through the yellow pages. You remember those back in
Oh,
the day? We had the yellow pages, and kind of was going through them, and um, kind of came through the military, and started calling the different branches. And I already had been hit up by an army guy, and he really bothered me. I don't know something. He just really turned me off to the army. So I just was like, I'm not calling the army. So I called everybody else. No one really answered that day except for the Marine Corps, right? And it was a Staff Sergeant Burke. I'll never forget the guy's name. Um, got me to come down to the recruiting station and start talking to me and telling me, you like camping, you like shooting weapons, and you like, and hell yeah, I do. Yeah, man. And just really got me all amped up. And I was pretty much just like, hey, where do I sign? How do I get going? And he's like, well, let's, you ever take the ASVAB? And I said, actually, I did. I took it in high school. I just literally thought I was getting out of class one day to take a test. I just went and took ASVAB. So he pulled it up and he said, you didn't do very good on your ASVAB, but you didn't do very bad, So we could work with what you got, right? And I'm just like, cool, man. I really was not in no mood to take an ASVAB all over again, right? So I was like,
I was going to say, because they made me take it again.
yeah, I mean, he was like, we could work with what you got.
Okay.
And so when he said that, but I did kind of the dumbass thing, really. I went kind of in with an open contract, right? Like, and there were several jobs that I could get under this open contract. One was like cook, one was I forgot. There was a couple, right? So I didn't really know. I was just like, fucking sign me up, man. I was just gung ho, I think, when I was going. And so anyhow, I go to MEPS within 2 weeks. Right, they send me off to MEPS, and I'm ready to go, man. I mean, they sent me through MEPS, and then I got on a bus. They stopped us at we got to stop at this is a Denny's in between LA MEPS and San Diego. It's like your last chow. They give you steak and lobster. And you're thinking, gosh, damn, this is fucking kind of nice, And here I'm coming from MEPS too, out of a pretty nice hotel, And they run us through the LA MEPS. We get to MCRD, man, and the guys, I'm not really know what to expect, but of course they get on, scream at us, and that whole tobacco. My first experience, kind of getting in there, man, was. I really was kind of I was laughing a lot. And I don't know why. I think a lot of it was I was kind of tired. And there was all these guys in my platoon that were just comical to me, man. I could just look at their faces and laugh at them because they're making weird faces all the time, And so I really got lit up one time while I'm sitting there, man. And I was sitting there left over right, and this is before we even get to meet our drill instructors. This is the receiving part. Some gunny who's marching us around, teaching us the shit. I had fire watch that night before, and we already just so tired, and we're sitting there, and this guy Bradshaw, I'll never forget, makes me laugh, man, and just I'm trying not to laugh, right? And because the gunny's sitting there has us all, it's quiet, and it's that laughter you can't hold in, and I literally let it out. Oh my gosh, that gunny was just lighting me up, and he let my drill instructors know about me when I got in there.
We got a comedian here doing.
Oh man, yeah, that wasn't really good for me, right? So let's just say I got my ass rode hard in boot camp, and anytime there was an opportunity to get smoked, I was getting smoked, man. They, get to the good old quarter deck. Roof, come on up, boom, we're smoking your ass in. So anyhow, man, I end up getting my orders, after we're done with boot camp. They kind of let us know what, because you got to know your next phase. You're either going to go to SOI, which is School of Infantry, or you're going to go to MCT. Well, actually, yeah, so MCT is more of like a Marine combat training, and that's for more of the support element, right? All of the grunt units, they all go School of Infantry. So they tell me, boom, you're 3051. I'm like, oh, what the fuck is that? They're like a warehouse, supply warehouse clerk. I was like, all right, well, that doesn't sound horrible, right? I mean, I could have been the cook or something else. So really wasn't bummed, man. Get to go home for 2 weeks because I got to do recruiting duty. So instead of that, I got a little extra time at home. Went to go do MCT. They sent me off to Jacksonville, North Carolina, and man, we had a lot of fun there. Being away from home for the first time. Not a lot to do in Jacksonville, North Carolina, except for a lot of strip clubs. So I'm not going to really necessarily say, maybe we did go to a couple of them, right? Maybe I got introduced to that world from the Marine Corps, of course, right? so fitting. But yeah, man, after that, get my orders, and after you go through schooling and stuff like that, you get to pick 3 of your wish lists, right? And I think all 3 of the ones I had picked, I didn't get none of them, not one. I'm the one that gets the 29 stumps. They give me 29 palms, and I'm hearing everybody else's shit. I'm like, what the fuck, man? And I had a good test score and everything. I'm just like, and I guess maybe it's because I'm from California. I don't know. And they're just, I don't know. I don't know what the hell the reasoning was, but I get these orders to 29 stumps. Man, I go to 29 palms, get there, and I check in, and this warrant officer, fucking checking in for your first time is very nerve-wracking, right? You're in your alphas. You don't know how to carry everything. there's a certain way you're supposed to walk in and check in with the officers, to the point of lining up so many, close to their desk and all this stuff, right? And you have to remember how to report. And boy, you're just tripping all over your shit because you're just new, And here I am, this warrant officer and he ain't taking it easy, I mean, you're the boot, and that's just the rule of the thumb in the Marine Corps. As the boot, you're gonna get harassed. You just got to be in for the ride for it, because they're testing your ass out. But that warrant officer is like, hey, got some good news and I got some bad news. And I'm like, oh God. He's like, they messed up on your orders. He's like, you're actually supposed to be at Camp Pendleton. And he's like, but we can use some warehouse guys here. Do you want to stay here? And I'm just like, or I'm feeling kind of nice today and I can let you go to Camp Pendleton. I said, it was June, July in the stumps, man. And it's 100 degrees there. Camp Pendleton, I knew, was by the beach.
It really is a nice place.
Yeah, I'm just like, yeah, you know what, bro? Send it. I'm going to, Camp Pendleton. So, I get to Camp Pendleton, man. And crazy enough, I check in there and I'm going up to check into my barracks room. And I'm there at the perfect time, bro. All the devil dogs are out of work. They're all chilling on the catwalks. None of them wearing their blouse. They're just, camis and their, skivvy shirts and shit. And here I come in my alphas, carrying my freaking sea bag and looking boot as fuck. And here it is, man. This dude goes and starts lighting me up, acting, gets me at position of attention. He doesn't got no blouse on. And I'm just like, oh gosh, bro. I'm just like already shook. I've already gone through it all. I've had to check in now 2 times to 2 different folks. And so I'm just now I'm getting razzed by these guys. Oh no. And I didn't know how to address them because I'm scared, was he a corporal? Is he a sergeant? Is he just some PFC like me that's just punking me? And sure as shit, he's just like, hey man, I'm just messing with you, bro. He's like, I seen your license plate, man. I live in Palmdale too. He was like, and I was like, no kidding, yeah, man. So gave me just a razzing, and that was kind of my introduction to the to the group. And then I go into my room, and my roommate's in there just bumping some like South music, dude. He's the coolest guy, man. Jason Sally, and God rest his soul, man. He passed away, but amazing dude from Florida, gold teeth. He just was a party dude. And I'm telling you, when I come in there, he's bumping some like dirty South music. And I'm just like, oh shit, all right, and he just treated me like a brother and kind of took me under his wing and got me learning all the stuff. But kind of fast forward a little bit while we're in there, man. I was in that unit for about 2 years. It was a Ply Battalion. It was a crazy unit where we just got messed with a lot. I got to play football while I was there, though, for the Marine team. Absolutely love that, man. That was, instead of me doing PT in the morning, I went to football practice. Got to play in the Colonel games where they did lunch times for, it was a Colonel Blitz. It was like a Colonel Blitz game. And it was, the different Colonels teams against each other. And it was just a whole, how we do, man. It was just a lot of fun, right? Boom, man. I get plugged out from that unit with one of my best friends and my brother from another mother. He's still to this day. He lives by me, and we still hang out and get in trouble with each other. But we get shipped off over to another place at Camp Pendleton called Delmar, and that's literally right on the beach, bro. Like,
I've been there. So
24 area, hands down, beautiful spot. Like when we were working sometimes out there, because before we deployed and stuff, right? We would be out there painting and doing all this painting and stuff. We could see the beach, and we had to hump and do a lot of beach runs and stuff like that. That was kind of the downfall. But man, around the 2001 when the World Trade Centers get smacked, I'm at an eye appointment, and it's just a normal day, right? I'm sitting in the waiting room and watching the TV, and they got the news on, and the Trade Center got hit by a plane, and everybody's like, "What the hell happened?" Da, 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 and I'm just sitting there in the wait at a Navy with the Navy hospital, waiting for my appointment for my eyes, and then the second one hits, and I'm like, "What the hell, dude?" And then they start talking about a terrorist attack and all this stuff, and then I get called back to the room, and so I'm just thinking, what the hell, man? As I'm going through my whole appointment, I get out of the appointment, I drive back to my where my job is, the warehouse, and sergeant's there, and he's like, "Hey, bro," he's like, "You need to get back to your room. We're doing a JOB, which is junk on the bunk. We're gonna do a full inspection. We may be deploying. We got attacked by terrorists. We're locking down the base. Call your parents." I'm like, "What the whoa? What's going on, man?" I'm just like, okay, I'm coming back from this appointment thinking, and everything's normal. I go over there, and it is crazy chaos. Everybody's locked in their rooms. They got everybody doing inspections, and they're making it seem like we're legit getting on the plane that day, right? And we're not going to see your family anymore. Make sure you make calls home to your family. So we're all thinking we're getting deployed. Well, nothing really goes on for 2 years. We'll fast forward all the way to 2003. That's in 2002, around November, December timeframe, get orders to go to the Middle East. And I'm like, oh shit, I'm an early party. They need they already sent like 2 of my guys there as an early party. I was still going as another early party. So they sent me off. I got my orders for January 15th of 2003. So, man, it's a weird feeling to know you're getting ready to be shipped off and you're actually going to war. And you've been training this whole time for all this. Now it's real. And I can't even tell you how that feels as you're getting ready to board on that plane and you're leaving US soil and you're wondering, like, will I be able to walk back on this soil again when I come back home? It just start to run through your head a little bit, and we're all young, man. This is we're like, holy shit, this is real.
Yeah.
So they send us off over there. I get there. It takes a little time to get there, right? We fly. We get to Frankfurt, Germany. That was wild, and I don't even think I'll tell that story here because it's one of those Marine stories that are hardcore. They're good stories, and but they're probably not very for everybody to hear. But we were in Frankfurt, Germany for a night because they had problems with the landing gear or something like that. So we drank so much that night, man. It was a mess, right? Like everybody, we had to be in formation at 3 a.m. And when we got into formation, no one was standing still. Everybody's puking. Colonel's losing his brain on everybody. Get them get them out of here. Sit them down. So we get to the airport. We get ready to fly out. Boom. Midair, man, everybody's dead tired because no one slept, so we're sleeping. And on the intercom, they're like, "We got to do an emergency landing." We're like, "Oh gosh, dang, dude!" So we end up flying back into Frankfurt, Germany again, and we're at Germany. And this time, they make everybody stay, and they have curfew. There's no one's allowed to basically do anything, and they have everybody go to their own rooms, so that way we all can get rested. Be ready for the next day. So we do that and fly out the next day, get to Kuwait, and what an experience that was, man. They put us on this bus. They put us all on these buses, and these buses are completely covered with like blankets and towels and stuff. Like for maybe because it's so hot, I don't know, or they don't want us to see where the hell we're at. It just super weird, right? Like we can't see outside, so we drive all the way. We finally get to a place called Camp Commando, and that's pretty much where I would be at. Is in a place called Camp Commando. And when I get there, it's an old Kuwaiti base that had been taken over back in the in the first Gulf War, Desert Storm time frame, when Iraq infiltrated Kuwait. This was kind of the last stand at this base, right? It was you could see the bullet holes in the walls and the concrete. I mean, it was all kind of in retrospect, looking back at it, pretty cool to kind of be and see all this as a part of history. But man, when we get there, first night, they have us in a GP tent on cots, and we're all passed out. And I wake up, and it sounds like there's water running, and I'm like, get my little moonbeam, and I'm like flashing around, and I see someone's like beanie just floating down like in a river. I'm like, hey, wake up! No one's woke up to this except for me, and we're in a little like a flood zone. It rained so damn hard there that it started flooding. So everybody sea bags and stuff, it's all on the deck. No one's thinking we're gonna be like getting rained out in this place. So then after you get rained out, right, then come sandstorms, and then you get these crazy sandstorms that come and blow you out. You can't even see like in between you and me. I mean, it's just crazy. But yeah, so anyhow, man, that was kind of the first experience there. We're like, oh gosh. So then we start getting ourselves set up. At this point in time, it's us living in our GP tents. But at some point later on, they would eventually bring in these things that we called like Haji tents. They're big, fabric. And then they brought in they tried to bring in like ACs with the Army was in charge of, keeping the generators running and stuff like that. And if they didn't fill it up one night, we would be screwed. Like, and that happened quite often. Place is hell over there, bro. Like, it's hot as heck, dude. Like, unreal hot. We hit, I think, a 132 or 130 something over there. Hottest day. The water we would drink was hot water because we didn't have like ice coolers. But if you became boys with the NBC guys, they had coolers because they had to have certain things for they were the biological guys, and they so they had to have these dry ice and stuff like that for certain things. We'd say, hey, dude, can we throw like a water bottle in there for a little bit? And they used to hook it up. But yeah, man, and then March hits, and I think it's March 8th. War was declared already, right? And so we already kind of knew war was declared. We just didn't know what the hell was going to go on. When war was declared, we kind of expected for us to like all of a sudden be like, here, they were just thinking, oh shit, like,
yeah.
But it wouldn't go down until the pretty much around the next day after Bush had declared war. The next morning, afternoon time frame, maybe. I'm walking out, and my buddy's like sitting down, and we just hear it, boom, and there's just a huge freaking like ripple, like it feels like an earthquake, and I'm like, oh my gosh, man, these fools found us. Like we're getting attacked. It dawned on me that we just got bombed, right? And luckily it was kind of outside. It sounded like it landed kind of in the middle of our base. Later on, we found out it was about 1,000 or 500 yards out on the perimeter, right? Because every time there was some kind of impact or anything with that, they would have the NBC guys go out, check it, make sure it wasn't dirty. Because we were full mop suit once we took on the first hit. So Man, when we got hit, dude, I just grabbed my shit and we had built these scud bunkers, and I ran there, and on my way in there, I knocked the hell out of some guy. His name was Funes, and I was just like, you all right? And I'm trying to like grab him as he's falling, and we all make it into our scud bunkers, and sure as hell, man, it was, and we just heard more, and then the scud alarm started going off finally. The first one or two did not get detected by any kind of radar. After that, we were just hearing scud alarms. And I mean, we were getting attacked at Camp Commando the first week or so every day, all the time. We ended up sleeping in our scud bunker the first 2 or 3 nights because it was getting to the point of like, fuck, man, I don't feel like getting up and running to this thing anymore. I'll just sleep in it, or you just got to the level of you didn't care, you didn't want to get out of your rack, and you were just like, well, if it hits me, it hits me. I'm just literally too tired to get up anymore.
So you're over there, and you're doing supply, not at the company level or platoon level, but at the high level. What's it like keeping the people you're supported in that kind of environment?
Man, so you don't realize how critical things get until war really happens, right? And how much impact your job actually has. You constantly poke this, poke that, right? And then combat comes a different level, man. It comes all this whole thing, and I'll never forget the first day or two when war had already happened. We see, for supply, we were attached to a grunt unit. See, just because you're supply doesn't necessarily mean you're just going to be in the rear with the gear. Sometimes you're actually attached to grunt units, and you got to go wherever they go, right? I mean, we don't necessarily go to the front lines with them, but we got to be close enough till we can feed them, and make sure that they have food, water, ammo, all those things. And so I'll never forget this, man. This captain came, and he was livid, just chewing out my captain, and telling him what a piece of shit he was because we did not get gear out to his people enough in time. His lieutenant took one to the chest because we didn't get their chest protectors out to them fast enough.
Wow.
And so he just really shit all over my captain. And it was just in front of all of us, man. And we could feel the weight and the impact of it because the guy's really in tears, right? He's so pissed and angered. But he's taking it out on us like it's our fault, but it really wasn't our fault. Here we are, bro. We're waiting to get these 20-foot, 40-foot containers off of these ships that are coming from America. They got to go through Long Beach and all these different. I mean, it's not just we got our stuff here. It takes time, right? Yeah. And so, unfortunately, those chest protectors just get there as he's pretty much getting there, and he's so mad about it because he's basically claiming that if he is, lieutenant would have been wearing that, he would have been alive, and so, and who knows, right? But it's still as I'll never forget that, right? Because not only is it realization like what we're doing is pretty critical to the mission, but we're also losing people now, and now it's real. This is all real, and now it's coming down, right? I mean, we're getting it through the pike of, hey, they just lost this many guys. We just lost this many. Boom, those guys, they're not. These guys didn't come back. You know what I mean? Like, they never came back. So it's the realization of your job kind of comes really quickly. And, we had to give them their food and water and chest plates, all that stuff.
Well, I mean, you do hear that, right? I was in the air wing, I was in a, ground, air wing type unit in Hawk, but I heard all the time, well, you're not a 03, so you ain't, anything, and bow to me, Pogue, and, get out of here, Pogue. We don't want you around. And, okay, yeah, I have nothing but respect for our 0311 brethren, but I don't think they realize real quick just how they don't go anywhere or do anything without some, buddy in the admin office making sure the supply order is done and things grind to a halt real quick when the food and water quit coming.
I could always tell a combat 0311 versus a guy that just trained as an 0311, and why because those guys that never really probably saw combat speak the pogue stuff a lot, right? And they'll really ride that train. But the guys that were over there who saw what I mean, if we got cut off, there's times that they suffered out there because we got cut off. We couldn't get shit to them fast enough, or they covered too much ground and we couldn't keep up with them. A lot of those things happen, right? And those guys, she found out really quick, man, what it's like if you don't got the supply line.
Yep.
And how critical it becomes. Because if you're starting to having to ration your MREs, you're rationing your water, it could get really scarce, man. And you're in a place it's not our place, right? You can't just walk up into some place, hey, we want to buy some stuff, get out of here. It's kind of the way we were treated over there. So
Yeah. Now, were you in for 4 years or a full 20? How long were you in?
no, I did my 4. I did 2000 to 2004.
Yeah.
After the deployment and going through kind of the stuff I had gone through, I really had a hard time seeing myself rotating back and forth because that's all it was going to be. If I was staying in, anybody that joined around the time I did and decided to make a career out of it spent their whole career in a in time of war. Because if you joined around 2000, 2003, 2004 timeframe, and you're just now, retiring, you spent a lot of time in combat. Probably got rotated out at least 3 to 4 times, and one round of that is pretty rough enough, right? And then I was part of the evasion part. I was part of the, we knew who the enemy was. For the guys that were down there later, man, they, their worst enemies were IEDs and things like that. They didn't know who the hell their enemy were because these people are literally your friends by day and enemies by night, But I ended up getting a Red Cross message late June, July from my grandmother. She was passing away. And because there was already stability in the war, I was a short-term, getting ready to EAS. They pretty much allowed me to go home, and I didn't have to go back because it was enough time. Now, when the war first started, I would say January or February, don't quote me, you guys could look this up. For the first time in a long time, they did stop loss, right? And I watched guys that were on the checking out stage literally get told, nope, here's your orders. You're actually going to the sandbox instead. I mean, the stop loss was crazy. I'm glad I actually they only kept the stop loss around. I think it was 3 to 6 months time frame. It was more or less for the invasion part. Once we kind of took out Saddam Hussein, which was around April timeframe, April 2003, they thought, "Hey, we got the war is over. We got the leader." Little do they know, there's more of like a 3-head monster to that whole thing. So
For sure. So you were in for 4 years. You get out. And what was that like? Was it just like, what, this was real, this was fun, not fun, I'm getting out and starting my life over? Because, for all of us, it's different.
So you know what, man, up to the point when I got ready to get out. So if I had deployed probably earlier on in my career, I probably would have stayed. But because I had been through so many games and so many being mistreated or, and feeling inhuman sometimes, until you pick up rank, which is about corporal, and you become an NCO,
Right.
you pretty much have voluntold, and you're always going to be on the shits, details, whatever it may be, steering poo poo, burning poop. It's that your PFCs, land schoolies, the lifetime land schoolies, they had a job for you. You know what I mean? So, um, I was a corporal when I got out, so I made it up to corporal right before I deployed, luckily. So I made it over to the sandbox as a corporal, and that I think that was nice. So, but man, after that deployment and everything else, and all my experience with my leadership, I was ready to get out.
Yeah.
I was ready to get out. So I had already kind of had been seeking, what am I going to do? What am I going to do for my next move? Right. And so my stepmom worked at an aerospace company called Northrop Grumman, which is in my hometown. And I was like, well, shoot, I guess here it is on that story of going back to my hometown. I was the guy, I got out of there, but now here I am going right back to it, and I was able to get away from all, my troubles, and here I am going right back. But it wasn't a bad move really at the end of the day. So I ended up getting a job at this place called Northrop Grumman. Started off making some decent money, worked in the receiving department. While I was going there, they offered schooling tuition reimbursement up to 80%. And so I had the GI Bill. And so I decided, hey, I'm going to go get my degree. And I'm going to try to move up in the company. I want to move up as fast as I can. If I'm going to work corporate America, bro, I want to be the boss, right? And so I was just constantly volunteering myself while I was working in the receiving department, taking Dale Carnegie courses, just, continuing to do my online schooling through Colorado Tech University. Got my degree and eventually would make my way up through that company. I made it a goal to just make myself a ladder and keep on climbing or steps. And, I never went to my bosses without, whenever I asked my bosses, I would ask them for raises. I would ask them for this or that, but I would go to them with stuff. Hey, I took these courses. I took this and this, can I get a raise? So I really, because I had always heard other people say, hey, man, you got to be the squeaky wheel to get your money. So I would always, but I didn't want to go without an empty hand. I wanted to show them, hey, I'm bettering myself as an employee for your company. Is there anything opportunity for me? And sure as hell, man, there always was, right? And so, like I said, would eventually climb myself up, made myself into a project manager, ended up, owning like $1 million projects. We built the fuselage for the F-35, and dealt with a lot of engineers and stuff like that. Great job. But my ailments and stuff like that, my PTSD, everything else would eventually start getting to me a lot more and more and more, right? Into where I was having a hard time with my home life, work life, combining it all, separating it all. I just was really struggling, right? And so I was always that kind. I never wanted to go to see or seek any VA help or anything like that. But I had a buddy who literally we served pretty much our whole time together. He just was about 6 months after me. But we did our whole time together, and he was already up to like 100%. And so he's just like, hey, man, you really should go, bro. And, I had been experiencing things that I couldn't really express what I was going through. I didn't know what anxiety was. I didn't really know what PTSD was. I just know that I was feeling things that I had never felt before in my life. And, when we got out of the Marine Corps, it was not a smooth transition. It was more like you're no good to them anymore. Hey, you're gone, right? So there was no, hey, you might experience this or that or the other, being that you were in these type of situations. And so when you do start feeling these things, seek this help or that or whatever. There was no kind of guidance, right?
No, no.
It was more like you're on your own, figure it the frick out. And then you get thrown through these number rings, right? And hey, call this number. All right, I call this number. We'll call this number. All right, we'll call this number. Call this number. To the point, man, where I was like, dude, I throw in the flag almost. Like I'm done. But I had my wife. She was really adamant about keeping going, taking the paperwork from me and doing all that. I just really ended up having to show up to all these, appointments and stuff like that. And my very last appointment with them, I finally just decided that I'm just going to be 100% about everything, how I feel, like my legit thoughts, my deepest thoughts that I don't share with anybody. I'm going to share with her, and I want her to dissect whatever I'm saying. And after that meeting, bro, I left that meeting in a fog, a super big, weird fog. I just wasn't feeling right. To the point I ended up hitting a lady crossing the street because I was not paying attention to her. I mean, luckily I didn't like slam her super hard, but I hit her enough to where she stumbled down, right? And her friend like grabbed her and they're like, "What are you doing?" I'm just like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry." And I'm literally at this wit's end now. I'm like freaking out, because now it's all the things I just processed and went through with this psych, and now I just hit this girl. I'm thinking the cops are gonna get me. I'm done, weird, just going through it all. Wasn't good for me. And so anyway, after that appointment, I ended up getting a notice telling me that I'm 100% unemployable. And at this point in time, that means I no longer could work, and ended up leaving my job at Northrop Grumman in 2018. And now I've been unemployed ever since. And it's kind of why I ended up starting my podcast and stuff.
The thing was with you is you knew you needed help. It was just the mechanics of trying to get the help that really slowed you down. Do you think if you had gotten help faster, you would have been at Northrop Grumman still, or was it just like, what, it's time to do something else in my life?
Man, I think if I probably would have been able to deal with some of this stuff a lot earlier, I would have been in a better place in a lot of ways, right? Because I ended up having a failed marriage, going through divorce, having 2 kids that didn't really have a really great father. I ended up having to own that later on in my life and tell them I was a horrible dad because I just wasn't in the right mind, right place, But you know what, man, is as hard as it was to kind of accept that reality of like, I'm unemployable, I'm going to walk away from a 6-figure job, making really good money to making half of that now, right? But you know what, bro? At the end of the day, man, money's not what's important to me. It's having my right mind and having a good soul, man, and just being the best version of myself. I think that's a way more of a reward to me at the end of the day, and I think it's going to pay off bigger, right? And when we die, I've watched my dad die in 2020. Man. He didn't take anything with him. All his sole possessions were given up to all of us, and things like that. He didn't take any of that with him. All we have is our memories with him and stuff like that. It's kind of like it's a blessing in disguise, really, right? Because I had to go through a lot, bro. It's a blow to the pride when you're told, you're not going to make as much money as you were anymore and stuff like that. And you're not going to you work so hard to climb in this job because you really, in anything I ever do, man, I was always trained to never fail and be the best at whatever the hell I'm set out to do, and so that was always my mindset. So when I got this, it was a huge blow, in so many ways, but that's when the healing really started for me.
Yeah. So you've talked about this before, where it's almost like, hey, I had to go to the bottom before I could start getting right again. And man, now that I'm right again, it was kind of worth it. Which is this where the idea for your show came from, or explain that?
Yeah, so kind of did, right? So I think at the end of the day, the podcast served more than one purpose. It was kind of to give me a feeling of like I belong to something. I have something to kind of get up and do. Um, but it also gave me an opportunity to kind of tell my story and get it out there. So that's how I first started, right? Like the whole thing started on me kind of telling my story. And I didn't really know where I was going to go with the podcast, but it was an opportunity for me to say, if no one else listens to this, maybe my kids can one day, and they can kind of get an understanding of kind of who their dad is, and kind of understand a little bit more about him, because he doesn't really tell us all this stuff. So that's kind of what I was thinking. But as I'm going through it, and I'm starting to say, I kind of like this, because I remember being a kid and I really liked my elective class when I was doing radio class, and stuff. And I said, this kind of reminds me of being radio. So I said, why don't I start trying to bring on others and let them tell their stories? So, I started off and I was like, all right. So I started writing down all these questions. All right, who am I going to get, man? So I'm going for my boys that I served with, thinking, oh, this is a home run, bro. No problem. I'm going to get these guys. No problem. Hardest guys to get are my homies, right? So here I am not getting these guys. So now I'm here getting my my dad's friend who he grew up with, was a Navy veteran. And so I had some breakfast with him, told him about my podcast, and he's like, yeah, sounds so cool, man. I'd love to be your first guest. So that was it, man. Started there, and I am literally recording my 100th interview tomorrow. Yeah, so by the time this airs, I'll be well over it, brother. And yeah, man, it's been I started my journey with podcasting January 9th of 2023, and just been going really steady with it the whole time, man. I've even had other little shows from it that I sparked off. We did a Wacky Wednesday show where we brought on nonprofits, and then we kind of did hypothetical questions with the nonprofits after they talked about what they got going on, to make it kind of fun and lighthearted and more of like a hangout type of thing, right? Then from there, got into some Conspiracy Fridays with my buddy Donald, and now I'm just kind of doing every day is a Saturday USMC veteran, and we did a football talk show. I'm doing that with my buddy Donald Dunn, who's an Army veteran, and my buddy Kevin Gorin, who's Doc Goodbeard. He's a Marine veteran as well. But we have fun doing our little talk shows. But man, podcasting has definitely been my therapy.
Awesome.
Right, and it's the cheapest therapy I can probably find, and it's worth a lot, because during these close to 100 interviews, I've learned a lot, man. And there's a lot of times the light bulb or the lines connected themselves for me, right? I was just like, oh my gosh, that resonated with me. You're right.
Well, the reason I kind of saluted you at number 100 is I don't think a lot of people appreciate that most podcasts fail between number 7 and 30. There's like 4 million registered podcasts, Apple Podcasts. And so, between 7 and 30 is when the majority of them fail. Most of them, if they get past 30, only put out a show once a month. Very few shows. So to get to 100, you start in 2023, which means you're putting out a show almost every week on time.
Yeah. Or I've done 2 a week at times too. When I got super crammed, I started 2 a week.
So you're really consistent, and that puts him, ladies and gentlemen, in rare company. I know people think about the Joe Rogan, but there's a lot of people who start, never get going, or quit, and they just fade into nothing. So consistency in this realm is key, and much respect, my friend. Much respect.
Thanks, brother. You know what they say a lot about podcasting? It's not a race, it's a marathon,
It is.
right? And it's just one of those ones. So if anybody's ever thinking about podcasting, just know it takes time to grow, and don't think it's something like you'll be a Joe Rogan right overnight, and don't get your feelings hurt if you're the only one that listens to it at times. Um, it's just like he said, showing up all the time and staying consistent. You start to see a little bit of organic growth. I get, on my YouTube channel, 1 to 2 followers a week. I'm happy. If I get one a month, I'm happy, man. I mean, uh, I'm just, I'm not really in it for that anymore. It's more of, I want to get our brothers and sisters stories out now, right?
For sure.
It's more of that. So I'm more interested on getting viewers so that we can get these stories out, because some of these people are out there doing amazing things.
Yeah.
They got nonprofits, they're musicians, they're just doing some amazing things for our veteran community, and unfortunately they get overshadowed by all these other superstars and stuff like that, right? So we got to start having people like us highlight these guys and gals, because they deserve it, right? They're out there. Not only do they serve their country, but they're also trying to continue down a path that's really hard.
Well, it's just like I said, we talked about it before the show got going, that, think about what we do if we had like the World War I stories available to us. Think about how many we've lost due to the Korean War, and the Vietnam era veterans are finally getting their, way overdue, honor and legacy captured. And there's so much wisdom perspective that we could all benefit from. So I am like, there's room for everybody. Let's everybody go. And I'm glad you found podcasting, and that it helped you out. And has it, because you're having to be consistent, you're having to be on time and engage with people. Do you feel it helping yourself? You kind of talked about that earlier, but how does it make you
Yeah,
feel when you're podcasting?
man, podcasting, it just feels good to, for one, like I said, have conversations with others. But you know what? Through this, I've actually got to meet people like you, Travis, and a lot of other great veterans that are doing like things, to the point, man, where I actually flew out to Nebraska to an event called Hero Stock.
Oh yeah.
I went out there last year, and then I went out there again this year, because I met these folks all through podcasting, man.
Nice.
And they got me excited, and it's crazy how much of a brother and sisterhood that I got that's not close to me anymore around my house. Um, I love going to those events, but I wouldn't have found those events if I wouldn't have gotten myself involved in podcasting.
Yeah.
And so now I'm getting to meet some of these musicians that I got to interview. I'm meeting, the CEOs of these nonprofits that are out there for veterans. And now I'm finding that camaraderie again with everybody. And now we're able to network, and some great things come out of veterans working together, so podcasting has been a great thing. I didn't even go to Hero Stock talking about my podcast at all. I went there because I wanted to have a good time and have fun. And literally, the podcast world is what connected me with all that, right? I wouldn't have been connected, or even, been able to get myself involved, had I not have been talking to all these, guys and girls. So, man, podcasting has served its purpose in multiple ways. I can't talk good enough about it enough. And I know people are starting to put that like, oh, another podcaster, or whatever. I don't, for me, if you want to do that, don't let other people stop you from doing it. It's a great thing. And there's some great benefits that come from it. Not just, getting comfortable with talking and feeling good about yourself, but connecting with others again. Right.
For sure.
And that's the great thing about technology. that we didn't have before. Is now we can connect with each other through a screen.
For sure. It used to be like oh yeah, you're in Topeka, Kansas. sorry.
Yeah, maybe you got a pager. You know what I mean? Back in the days, you know.
It's crazy how things have done. How can people, connect with your podcast, Bryan?
Yeah, so easiest place probably to go is to my website, which is edasuSMCvet.com. And really, that's pretty much a one-stop shop. I got my seasons there. I have nonprofits in there, and veteran-owned businesses as well. So I'm trying to just keep adding to the library and keep plugging away as I meet people that come on my show and they're a nonprofit or they own a business. Try to give them another place for people to click at,
Excellent. Well, hey, Bryan, I'm going to put the links to your website and YouTube channel and Oscar Mike Radio show post, and because I think this is important because I talk to veterans all the time that want to start a podcast and are unsure themselves, like, will anybody listen? And I'm like, well, hey, man, I can tell you for a fact, very few people at the first listened to mine. It was very hard, but you got to do it for the right reason. And I think, listening to you, it just kind of validates that you've got the kind of right attitude to be consistent. That's the other thing. You've got to have a purpose. You got to add value. So I'm glad you're doing that. And given, someone who has like a nonprofit or a business, a place, when they go to your website, you see them right there. And that's huge for somebody trying to make it, man.
Absolutely. I think what happens to a lot of us is we're our worst own enemies, right? We self-doubt ourselves. We quit too early. We quit on ourselves too early. Sometimes we never know what that end was going to be like because we didn't allow ourselves to get there. You know what I mean? And all I can say is release yourself a little bit. You get one chance at this life. Be the best version of yourself and don't take those shackles off and be free.
Absolutely. Well, you've heard from the man himself, fellow Marine Corps veteran Bryan Roof. Every day's a Saturday. Hey, what is that? Where did that title come from? Because every day is a Saturday, and Saturday sometimes in the Marine Corps is the best day you're going to get because Sunday I'm getting like my uniforms and all that stuff ready for Monday morning and trying to find a barber somewhere. So where did that come from?
2018, man, once I went out completely disabled, I was like, wow, every day is a Saturday now. You know what I mean? And so I just started saying that line. And when I went to go start the podcast, my wife's like, why don't you just call it every day's a Saturday? You always say that. And I was like, you're right. I do. Why not? So
it sticks. It's very good.
That's where I went.
Well, Bryan, I want to say thanks a lot for coming on and talking with me. I think you're doing
Thank
great
you for
stuff.
having me on, brother. I appreciate all that you do. And you're definitely one that a lot of us aspire to be. You're in the 400s. You know what I mean? So that you're setting the bar very high for a lot of us, right? So
the same team, though.
Thank you for all that you're doing, though, brother.
Oh, appreciate it, man. Appreciate it very much.
I appreciate all that you do. You're an amazing human being.
And it's just going to get more amazing here in 2025. I can't wait to see what you do next. And maybe I'm trying to figure out my 2025. So if you go to Hero Stock, I'll do my dead level best to be there. That's my promise to you, Bryan.
Yes, please do, man. You won't regret it. I promise.
Right.
An experience you'll never forget.
Well, Bryan is Oscar Mike for certain. This is Oscar Mike Radio. And as we say in Oscar Mike Radio closing out, we're mission in flight. Thank you very much. Subscribe to both podcasts, and we will see you next time. Hoorah! Thank you for listening and watching Oscar Mike Radio, where our active duty service members and veterans are in action, and the mission is in flight. Oscar Mike Radio is an oversized load Co-Sinista One production. If you are a veteran or know a veteran who needs help, please dial 988 and press 1 for the Veterans Crisis Line.